Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. We are still in the month of February. It is, in fact, I think, Valentine's Day today. I think I have this one scheduled for the 14th. If not, it's close to Valentine's Day. So I decided to do a couple movie reviews of more romantic movies, movies of deep, true love. Now, last week I did The Adventures of Don Juan from 1948. Today, I'm doing Indiscreet, 1958. A movie that's maybe not as well known these days outside of people who are into classic movies, but it's a great movie. It's a different kind of movie. It is beautifully directed by Stanley Donen and well worth a watch. Now, with a lot of my movie reviews, I sort of go through the film, plot-wise, at some point put up the spoiler alert. I'm not going to do that with this one, because I don't know of any way I could without really ruining the film. I think I'm going to stick more to just a review of what you get in this film and why it's worth watching. So this one should be spoiler-free, because I definitely want people to go out and check this movie out. I believe it's playing free right now on Roku. You can get it in a few other places as well. So Indiscreet, it's based on a play. Now, and it feels like it is too. When you're watching it, it translates from the stage to the film in a really interesting way. You kind of feel like you're watching a play while you're watching this movie. The play was written by Norman Krasna, and frankly, it didn't do all that well. He wrote a light comedy. People were probably expecting something more. It did fine. It didn't do great, and no movie studios were interested in it. So Krasna paid $10,000 to his co-producers to get the film rights to the movie so he can make a movie of it himself. And so he approached Stanley Donen to direct the picture. Donen said, "I'll do it, but only if it stars Cary Grant." Cary Grant said, "I'll do it, but only if it also stars Ingrid Bergman." Ingrid Bergman said, "I'll do it, but it needs to be filmed in London," because she was working on a play in Paris at the time. And so, nice little chain of events that really actually probably made for a much better film than it might otherwise have been. The film itself did relatively well. Obviously, this isn't like a major big budget movie. I think it probably profitable, but it didn't do spectacularly. But again, a very good movie. And Cary Grant, he said of all the movies he made, this one was in fact his favorite. So it at least has that going for it. It is a beautifully crafted and highly crafted movie. And that's one of the first things that struck me. Whether we're talking just the opening of it, uses these colors that you just don't see that often. I don't mean like strange colors, but the way they're used. And they're really bright and bold and almost like oversaturated of these flowers while it's going through sort of the credits. And you get this also in the set design. You can see the image up on the screen now is Ingrid Bergman's apartment. She plays an actress named Anna. And I mean, it's really striking. I think it goes into the pantheon of apartments that you kind of wish you could own. It really takes advantage of the wide screen, and that's why I have the images up the way I do. And I'm going to even expand this image here for a moment, just so you can get a much better look. You get the fireplace flanked by these pictures, and they have the colors in the frames. The colors you also see repeated in the pillows on the couch, and in some of the other furniture. And it's really just a really nice use of color. Unbelievable set design on this film. It's and it goes all the way through. It's kind of a quiet film. a lot of talking, because we're dealing with a romance between these two people, and so it gets down to, it's about interaction and it's about character. It's kind of a quiet film. You get music when it needs to be there, and then the music disappears oftentimes when it's really more about the characters communicating to one another. It doesn't get in the way. It's just the layout and the work, I think, that went into planning was friggin' amazing. And Ingrid Bergman's gowns in the movie, we were watching it last night, my wife and I, in preparation for me to do this review, because it had been a little while since I'd watched it. And she goes, "Oh, the gowns are all fantastic." And I hadn't even registered that too much. Again, we're talking the 1950s, and a lot of people associate that with either the sort of pink Cadillac style or the mid-century modern. This one is lush and lavish. It shows you that there's so much more to that decade than a lot of people realize. And I'll tell you what, go pick up any old books from the 50s on like interior design and decor, and you'll be amazed at what was going on in that decade. It goes well beyond like Danish modern furniture and all that kind of stuff. So it's just from the gowns to the set design, and all of it very much designed to help tell the story. So it's like a masterclass, in my opinion, on how you design a film so that everything is contributing to telling the story of the film. And that's another shot there of Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman with the set behind them. It's just gorgeous. You don't get a massive number of sets in this film. There's an actual club in London that they did some scenes in, some restaurants, that kind of thing, like a real estate office. It's not this big, expansive, noisy, raucous kind of picture. It's a, sit down with your loved one, throw a blanket on, get some tea, and just watch a really good movie with just a lot of thought and care going into it. Like I said before, it's a movie about conversation. It's not about a torrid love affair. It's deeper than that. It's these two people who meet under, they didn't intend to meet. It's sort of the, fate brings these two people together, and there's like this instant spark, and then that spark expands into something more. And it is a light comedy, so there's some comical elements to it, and some of that has to do with sort of a white lie, kind of a white lie that's told early in the film that will then come back to haunt one of the characters later. But so often you have these characters, they're just talking, and it's witty and it's well written. You get just some really nice lines, but again, not florid. It's not long, drawn out monologues. It's like every line is well chosen, and apparently it sticks very close to the original play. You get a line like, "We are right for each other. We are good for each other, my darling." It's just, again, it's so many people nowadays want something extreme, huge, big, bomb, boom, bah. It is not that kind of film. But because of the kind of film it is, everything in it is just, it's just has to be perfect. It's sort of like, if you know any singers, you can maybe talk to them. If you're a singer yourself, this is what I've heard at least. Fast songs, talky songs, are a lot easier to sing than slower songs. Why? With a slow song, you have to hit every note, and you have to hold that note. And if you screw up, it is absolutely going to be noticed. You got to get it right. Everything has to be pitch perfect. You're doing something fast. the words are just spilling over, and if there's a little mistake, it's not going to be that noticeable because everybody's moving on and you're all swept up with it. So this is that kind of a movie where everything has to be just right. And it's a romance about two mature adults. You know, they're not elderly, but they're mature adults. It's not like teen angst. It's not, you know, hot and heavy kids in their 20s. It's really so much more than that. And it's really of its time as well in the sort of mores that are being explored here in the film. It would be referred to generally as a drawing room comedy, and that's what the play Kind Sir, I should mention, is the name of the play. The play was, and again, you get the feeling that you're watching a play while you're watching this movie in the way people move and the way they talk, and in how like I said, it's widescreen and it really takes advantage of that, as though you have this wide set, you know, in front of you and you're sitting in an audience and looking at it. Although it obviously also takes advantage of the things that a movie, you know, can bring. So it does both. It's a sophisticated film, but it is not overly intellectual really at all. And like I said, it's a real pleasure to watch. And it's a film that, like I said, really requires strong, solid acting from the folks in it. Every line needs to count. Every facial expression needs to count. It needs to mean something. It's, again, not folks running around being silly. There is definite comedy in it. There's parts that I definitely laughed at out loud, but it's not like, you know, a Marx Brothers movie or something like that, or Airplane, you know, where it's a little goofy and, you know, they just kind of rapid fire this stuff at you. And there's so much in the faces, and it's great. And, you know, when the two characters are content and happy, they just radiate that contentment. And when Ingrid Bergman at a certain point is angry, man, is she angry. And when she cries, it's heartfelt. It's that kind of movie. It's as much as it's sort of quiet and almost dry, it's also very, very intimate. Like, it brings you in to the emotional world of these two characters, you know, in good and in bad ways. And it's a great supporting cast in the film as well. And they all do it pitch perfect as well. I mean, again, it's carried by Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, but it's got so many good people in it. And like I say, there are some really funny scenes in it, primarily thanks to Cary Grant, who was a very accomplished comedian and did a lot of sort of almost slapstick early on in his career. And he could do the bam, 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 witty patter. You see that in, like, His Girl Friday, one of my favorite movies. So I think the comedy more is on his shoulders, and he shoulders it very, very well. There is this dance scene, and of course it's what leads up to this scene, because at a certain point you have this romance that begins, and everything is going so well, so beautifully, and then that lie is discovered, and you know, and just as Philip, Cary Grant's character, is making this wonderfully romantic gesture, you know, this little lie he's told becomes a problem, and you have a woman scorned, and she's pissed, but goes out on this, you know, outing with him and with her sister and her sister's husband. And you get this wonderful, funny scene of Cary Grant. He's happy. Everything's going just the way he wants it to. And he's noticing kind of something's wrong, but he's still trying to have fun. And of course, this is just making her just even more deeply annoyed and angry. And it's just great. It all just works so freaking well. And it like I say, it's got that play feel, but it really uses, it makes use of what you can do with the film. You got this beautiful set, and you get to see it from all these different angles that you wouldn't get to if you were watching this on a stage. And there's an image of Cary Grant dancing. Cary Grant is just, there'll never be never be another actor like him, ever. There won't be. He was an amazing personality. And again, these are some of the supporting actors. I think I got behind in my images. I thought I was doing well, but I wasn't, apparently. So there we go. That's the image that I was looking for. It's an early film that makes use of split screen. Because of Philip's job, he works for NATO. He has to often be away. And these two call each other every night at a certain time. And so beautifully set up these shots of them talking on the phone in different places. And yet you see the connection, where they place their hands, where they're looking, how they're talking. And it was an early film that used that split screen method. So again, highly crafted. A lot of thought went into this movie. Donen gets a lot of credit for me for this. And I mean, this is a guy who directed some great movies and stayed in the game for a long time. I mean, he directed Saturn III with Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett, which maybe not one of the great movies that he did. But I mean, he did musicals like you wouldn't believe. This is, if you don't know Stanley Donen, look him up, Wikipedia, wherever, IMDb, and start embracing his catalog of films, because he's a hell of a director. And he was doing something different with this. This is where he kind of broke off on his own. He and Cary Grant formed a company to do the movie, and it was the first one that they did together in that regard. They'd worked together before, so he was really, I think, taking some risks and making a different kind of film. It's something that probably could have been done in a different way and had more mass appeal. But I think they really did it right, and they really kept the truth of the play in what they did. So it's a movie that, it's about a romance. And it's about, like I said, that beginning, that initial spark when he shows up in her apartment, tagging along with her brother-in-law to this lecture that she has no interest in, and then decides, I want to go to this lecture now, and he sees it as well, and it follows through, this romance with all the happy moments, and seeing these two people who are so right for each other, coming together, and it's really beautiful. And then, for that moment where things go wrong, and they, like I said, they go wrong in a funny way. It is a comedy sort of manners and mores, and so it's not something that you're going to be left going, I hate this guy, look at what he did. No, it's funny, but it really ticks her off, and then so the question, of course, is, do we got a happy ending here? Does the romance continue? Does the romance fall apart? For that, you got to watch the movie. And I highly suggest you do. I think it's somewhat overlooked, probably almost unknown for a mainstream audience, but it's a really strong picture in terms of acting, in terms of directing, in terms of writing, in terms of set design, costume design. This thing is just, it's just like this perfect clockwork, and everything in it is just thought out and done beautifully and done correctly. And it's also, it's funny. It's a funny movie. It's not, again, slapstick funny. It's a funny movie though, and very romantic, and it's very beautiful, and it is absolutely worth watching. So go find Indiscreet. Like I said, I believe it's streaming right now free on Roku with commercials. and you're going to find it out there. It can be found. It can be watched. Give it a shot. If you have nothing else to do on Valentine's Day and you want to watch a beautiful little romance, Indiscreet, give it a try. 1958, directed by Stanley Donen, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, and well worth your time. Well worth your time. And that will end my review with no real spoilers. How about that? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. If you've seen Indiscreet, if you're a big fan of Grant or Bergman or Donen, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you have any other questions about the video or the movie, I would love to answer them for you. If it's a movie you don't like, hey, I'd love to hear, why don't you like this film? What did it, where did it go wrong in your opinion? Throw it all in the comments. I'll do my best to get back to everybody. In the meantime, God bless everybody out there. Be kind to one another. Oh, man, I should have had one of those little candy hearts that says be kind. That would have been perfect. Damn. Oh, well, that's life. Maybe next time. Be kind to one another. Try to have some fun. And happy Valentine's Day. Celebrate romance. Celebrate love a little bit. If you don't have somebody right now, hey, there's always hope out there. There's somebody out there for you. Don't be too afraid to chat with people, and maybe you'll get that kind of special connection that you see in this movie. Anything's possible. If a goofy nerd like me could find true love, and I did, then I think just about anybody can. And I'll leave you with that. Until next time on Dad's Den of Pop Culture, goodbye.